do have it.
Yes.
All right. That's wonderful news. I am going to go ahead and welcome you all in. Welcome everyone looking in, whether you're joining us here on Zoom or whether you're looking in on Facebook Live or whether you're looking in on YouTube or whether you're looking in through any of the ministries that share this message with their congregation or their followers. Wherever you are, you're in the right place at the right time. Welcome in. Truly, today is a glorious day, and we are so glad that you are all here with us. If you ever want to join us behind the curtain, so to speak, on Zoom, our newsletter that goes out every Friday morning is also posted to our Facebook page. In there, you can find the URL and the password to get in and join us here on Zoom, where we have additional visiting before we go live to social media, and then we shut off the feed and we visit with each other again. So it's a great way to experience your spiritual nourishment every Sunday morning. So thanks for being here. We're going to get started right away, and I'm going to turn it over to your First Lady and mine, Reverend Tanae. Come on out and share with us today's daily word opening prayer, whatever you're inspired to do here this morning. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Today is May 19th, 2024. Whenever I say things like that, I feel like I'm on Good Morning America. But anyway, I today's word of the day is I am. I am a living expression of God. In the book of Exodus, Moses asks God his name. God responds, I am who I am. I am is the name of the divine presence within me, a reminder of my spiritual nature. Sometimes I may forget my divine identity by thinking of myself as weak, incapable, or unfortunate. If I have spoken disempowering words about myself, I release those thoughts and stop using those words. Each time I say I am, I strengthen my awareness of the truth of my being. I am God's life, love, wisdom, and strength expressing uniquely as me. As I pay attention to my thoughts and words, I am able to recognize and release limiting thoughts more quickly. My awareness of my true identity grows stronger and stronger. And from scripture, the book of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 15, it reads, He said to them, but who do you say that I am? Amen. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading and the hearing of this word. Amen.
And thank you, Reverend Tanae. I appreciate that sharing. I think that's right in alignment. I love how these daily words just kind of just really align with what we're going to be talking about. We're continuing today looking at lessons that we can draw from this book I've been going through, The Architecture of All Abundance. Can't see it. There's too much light in the room here, but it's The Architecture of All Abundance by Lenedra Carroll. Um, a lot of wisdom in here. Mother of Jewel, and she manages Jewel's career, the singer-songwriter. So we've been looking at that all month. This is lesson 3 in this book. Using the architecture of all abundance as our roadmap, we're exploring really the ideas behind building a life, a deeply satisfying life, and expressing the truth of who we are, not what we have been taught, but who and what we truly are. This book lays out an architecture, a building plan for living. The author, Lenedra Carroll, dedicated the book to understanding her understanding of the divine excellence within each of us that when lived uplifts our humanity and moves us beyond our current limitations and difficulties into the revolution. I would say really the evolution of the soul and its certain transformation of our individual lives, our planet, our species, all of humanity, really. So today, and I know this will be something that all of us are interested in. Thought of so many things came up as I prepared this message for today. Today, we're looking at the architecture of health, the architecture of health. And I know everybody's ears perked up a little bit because, we get to that point in our lives sometimes where we're facing those challenges and wondering how am I going to deal with this? How can I move to that higher place and elevate myself to deal with this health challenge? So we're looking at the architecture of health today. At a nursing home in Miami, a group of seniors were sitting around talking about their ailments. One said, "My arms have gotten so weak I can hardly lift this cup of coffee." "Yeah, I know," said another. "My cataracts are so bad I can't even see the coffee cup." "I couldn't even punch out the chat at the election time. My hands are so frail," volunteered a third. "I can't turn my head because of my arthritis in my neck," said a fourth, to which several of the others nodded in agreement, very weakly in agreement. "My blood pressure pills make me so dizzy," exclaimed another. And then another one just chimed in and said, "Well, I guess that's the price we pay for getting up in years." One of the older gentlemen said that. "I guess that's the price we pay." He shook his head and the others nodded. Then he said, "Well, we need to remember to count our blessings and just be grateful that we can all still drive." Boy, boy. All right. Well, physical healing, when we look to healing, I want everybody to realize that physical healing was a cornerstone in the birth of the entire New Thought movement in the mid to late 1800s. Often believed to be the father of New Thought, Phineas Quimby had a spiritual awakening as a result of a buggy ride he took when he was near death. He was near death with what they called at the time consumption. Some of you may be familiar with that word, but consumption was another, that's kind of a dated word. It was another word for TB or tuberculosis, just a wasting disease, but just nasty. Well, a friend suggested to Phineas that he might feel better if he just got outside in the fresh air. So, despite his very weakened condition, Quimby, he hooked the horse up to the buggy and he took a ride, got out in the fresh air. Now, in the course of the ride, the horse got spooked and began to gallop out of control. Quimby struggled with the reins to get the horse and buggy stabilized, and after some effort, he was successful. He finally got the horse to settle down. When he finally stopped the buggy and took a couple of breaths after that exhilaration, he realized that he felt alive. He felt invigorated. He felt more vital than he had felt in years. This led him to a deep and profound study of the relationship between our mental state and our physical state. And because of this work, he was influential in beginning the New Thought movement. And by the way, he came back from the brink of death and went on to live in health for many years. And you can find that whole story in a book called Spirits in Rebellion by Charles Braden. Quite a story. But I've talked about that in a different way over the years with all of you and anyone that's listened to me about he got himself out of that puddle of wallowing in the results, the circumstances that have had shown up in his life. And he moved out of that and got into something new. Like I always encourage you, get into a, a new thought, right? That's what he did. He goes, "This feels good. I need to spend more time in this type of energy." Now, realizations of our divine essence being our source of health and healing also led our Unity co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, and the Brooks sisters, along with Melinda Kramer, founders of Divine Science, all individually on this new thought, spiritual path of healthy living and being. They each had an individual experience of that. In fact, the Brooks sisters is fascinating. Melinda Kramer, they came together, but on two ends of the, they weren't in close proximity to each other. And Myrtle, was going to lectures, and Myrtle had suffered, really the same way, very, very sickly, and and all overcame by realizing, hey, Myrtle's was, I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness and disease. I am not claiming my attachment to this. Right, over and over again, she affirmed and cured herself. So, regarding our health, we have really two cornerstone beliefs, all right, in new thought, so to speak. We have two cornerstone beliefs. The first one says there is nothing to heal, only our innate perfection to reveal. There's nothing to heal, only our innate perfection to reveal. Now, that's exactly the belief espoused in this chapter of this month's inspirational book. And that chapter is actually entitled The Architecture of Health. Lynedra Carroll, our author, writes on page 225, she says, slowly and surely, I have achieved wellness and vitality by building from the original blueprint of health that is embedded in my soul. Now, our second cornerstone belief is our thinking profoundly affects our physical state of being. Got that? Our thinking profoundly affects our physical state of being. Now, this is for everybody. This isn't just for a select few. This is no longer just a spiritual, it's not a religious belief or a spiritual belief. In fact, through scientific research and delving into the way our physical universe operates, there was a renowned American physicist, David Bohm, believes, he said this, that there is a deeper and non local level of existence from which our entire universe springs. He sees this deeper level of existence, and he sees it compromised entirely of waveforms, waves of differing kinds, and what he refers to as the implicate order, the originator and cohesive force of the cosmos, the implicate order. And it's language, and everyone uses different terms, but he's referring it to the implicate order. So remember that as I share a little bit of this story that that he came to understand. His research led him to understand that is our intention and imagination that affect the creation of form. Our intention and imagination that affects the creation of form. Every action starts, this is a quote from him, every action starts from an intention in the implicate order. Another way of saying in the great unformed potential. The imagination already has the intention and the germs of all the movements needed to carry it out, and it affects the body. So creation begins in the subtlest levels of the implicate order. Then it goes through the more subtle levels until it manifests in the outer as what we know as matter. In other words, he is saying that manifestation in the physical levels occurs by intention, imagination, and thought. All of that moving through the subtle levels of the implicate order until it manifests in matter such as the body. This shows in a very real way how our thoughts create our reality. And again, that's in the book, Architecture of All Abundance, on page 231. Where have we heard all that before? Well, more and more doctors and scientists are studying the ability of thought to bring about healing. One psychologist, Gene Osterberg, while head of research and rehabilitation science at the University of Texas Health Science Center, helped validate all of this and develop imagery, imagery healing techniques widely used in medicine and with athletes today. Using a group of college students, Dr. Ashterberg taught them to image a white cell known as a neutrophil. Neutrophils are a type of white blood cell that are part of the immune system and help the body fight infection. They are the first cells to respond to infections and wounds, killing and digesting bacteria and fungi. Neutrophils make up 40 to 70% of all white blood cells in human beings. Now, she trained a second group of students to visualize another type of white cell, the T cell. And T cells also are fighting, they go to bat in our immune system. Each of these groups showed a significant increase in the number of white cells that they imagined, but no increase in the white cells they did not imagine. Isn't that interesting? Dr. O. Carl Simonton uses such techniques with patients. While a radiation oncologist and medical director of the Cancer Counseling and Research Center in Dallas, he suggested to a patient that he could influence his own disease. Patient was a 61-year-old man with throat cancer, so advanced that he was extremely weak and could barely swallow or even breathe. He had only a 5% chance of surviving. Now, Dr. Simonton thought the man, he not thought, he taught him very specific visualization therapy. Now, the results were so dramatic and the recovery so remarkable that Dr. Simonton and his colleagues taught their mental imaging techniques to 159 cancer patients considered incurable. 4 years later, 4 years later, here's the stats: 14 of those terminal patients were disease free, 17 had stabilized. In another 12, the cancer was regressing. Altogether, an astonishing 63 of these patients were still alive. 4 years later, body is amazingly responsive to our thoughts. And we've seen that. There's people here in our group looking in our Zoom room that have experienced this, and some that are working on this right now. Lenedra Carroll writes in the book, she says, a thought laid down repetitively, that's a key, repetitively in the pliable wave field of the body, creates a body memory or habit, a pattern. Unless this pattern is interrupted at the thought level, it will ultimately manifest in the physical as an interruption of the natural health of the body. Form follows thought. The body is taking information and direction from our thoughts continually. The prime tone of the thoughts directly affects physical health. Hmm. Thoughts, feelings, and actions, right? That is exactly how she just wrote in that little couple lines there. That is exactly how thoughts filled with fear, worry, self-hatred, stress, anger, frustration, etc. rob us of our health. even creating very specific ailments in our body. Here's a little good news, bad news, if there is such a thing as bad news. We can change our thoughts much faster than our bodies change, since the body is far denser in its composition than thought. In other words, it can take some time in our world of time and space for the body to catch up. The good news is that it allows us to recognize and interrupt interrupt the thoughts that may create difficulty down the road, right? So we're thinking thoughts, we can interrupt that pattern. But the bad news is that it also accounts for why, when we have understood and corrected an unhealthy pattern, well, okay, we caught ourselves, right? We're being vigilant. Well, this accounts for why the change might not immediately appear. How often do we say, and Tanae and I both say this, and absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. It's taking place. The body just needs to catch up. And that's why repetition of visualization, affirmation, and even relaxation is necessary. What often happens with us is that we become discouraged and we give up quickly. If a healing, whatever we want to make manifest in our life, takes too long, we abandon our practice and settle back into our old ways of thinking and being, which, remember, created the situation or the condition in the first place. Excuse me. This is like committing to take a car trip from California to New York, or New York to California. Either way, it doesn't matter. But upon becoming lost in, say, Las Vegas, we say, oh, it's no use. I'll just turn around and go home. It's the same thing. Rerouting or course correcting is all that is required to put us back on track, no matter how many times we lose our way while changing an unhealthy pattern. The constant rerouting is what unavoidably interrupts the undesirable wave pattern being laid out in the body. We don't want it to take over. We want to keep interrupting it till it stops interrupting us and it stops interrupting the healthy flow of life and living. By communicating consciously and lovingly with our body, there's really no limit to its capacity to respond. It can bring about our renewal to full health and heighten our vitality, just like it did for Phineas Quimby, and even slow aging. In Health is Our Birthright, a book of case studies from many years of practice, Dr. Ellen Jensen addressed the need to purify our mental processes. And in it, she said, and Lenedra in the book quotes her too, she says in our book, Architecture of All Abundance, the body is a magnificent creation of God. It comes equipped with an innate intelligence and powerful energy to heal itself when given the opportunity. Keeping the mind free of debilitating thoughts is necessary to access this energy and intelligence. Feelings such as guilt, worry, fear, or anger can drain us of the vital energy that is so essential for a high quality of health and life. So it can be difficult, no doubt, to interrupt these obsessive thoughts. When Lenedra Carroll was trying to make strides in her ability to discipline her mind, she found a habit so deeply ingrained that it seemed hopeless. It was at the end of a relationship. Her mind replayed over and over again painful scenes she had with her boyfriend about fears over the future. It was so compulsive, or so compelling, I should say, that she couldn't even remember anything else to think about when she asked herself to. She's asking herself to think of something else, but this is still there. And I've been there. I could totally relate to this. To remedy this, she made flashcards for herself. Now, on them, she wrote several thoughts that would be beneficial for her to concentrate on. They included dreams that were neglected in her thoughts, her new business, a more satisfactory living condition, her love of music, and on and on. She referred to them again and again. Her life began to change in positive ways as she patiently but insistently allowed these flashcards to remind her of her dreams and needs of the present. Now, have ever any of you ever done something like that? I'm looking up and looking around the room. I smiled when I read that because most of you know I certainly have. Remember, I refer to often my index cards, all of my index cards I told you about before. Going way back, I was counting. This is way back over 35 years, maybe 40 years. Some of these are the original cards. And remember, I talked about even pounding them into my consciousness by slamming into a cement pillar in the mall when I was mall walking and reading these. Remember that story? If not, remind me at the end and I'll tell it again. But I could really relate to reading this story in the book. And so, she found a way that worked. So now we come to a burning question that many of us as spiritual students ask ourselves when a health issue does arise and we do this deep inner work and we're looking at it. Sometimes we go to that place and we say, well, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? Now, midway, let me tell you a little story that's in the book here. Midway through Jules, her daughter's spiritual tour, Lenedra and Jewel were both worn out. They were both really burned out, badly in need of rest and recuperation. She heard about a beautiful lodge in northern New Zealand, and some of her morning inspiration, I just happened to use a couple of images from that area, and oh my God, is it beautiful! But she heard about this lodge, and she booked a few days for their R&R, the rest and relaxation and respite, whatever you want to call it. She was looking forward to continue, to move into some downtime for both of them. They were really burned out. So she showered quickly at the hotel, mentally preparing for the trip. The phone rang as she stepped from the shower and she dashed. She ran over to answer it. The next thing she remembered was hearing a frighteningly loud, guttural cry that seemed to be some distance away. Someone help her, she thought to herself. She's hurt. She did not realize that the sound was coming from her. She had fallen on the wet floor, bashing her right temple against the doorknob. The fall left her with quite noticeable difficulties. In, a, in addition to a severe concussion, well, she had also had lateral whiplash. She suffered frequent episodes of ringing in her ears, followed by blackouts. There was damage to a blood vessel above her right ear, which affected her balance. Suffering chronic spasms in her right shoulder and arm, too. She lost 80% of her range of motion. She writes in the book, she says, we often wonder what we did wrong when such things occur in our lives, feeling guilty, thinking we did not get it right. We ask why we fell, got cancer, caught a cold, had a headache. The question why can have the nagging inference that we did something wrong. As we become more conscious of the connection between our emotions, our living habits, and our bodies, we may even add derogatory judgment to the process. There is the chance that we have gone from making no connection, taking no self responsibility, to blaming ourselves. End quote. How many can relate to that? I certainly can, indeed. We feel that if we were somehow more conscious or more spiritual, then this bad thing would not have happened. We take this internal blame for it. We get into self judgment, even self loathing sometimes. This does not, I repeat, does not serve us or support us. In fact, it gets in the way of the clarity and wisdom that are available to us. Balanced and conscious assessment of an experience is helpful. It's important to connect our thoughts and our feelings with our actions and our body. It's valuable to ask questions. However, being unduly critical or shaming ourselves keeps us locked in the condition, not in the solution. So when a health challenge comes our way, what if instead of asking, what did I do wrong, we ask, how can I bring myself back to what I know to be true? That I am whole, I am safe, I am a perfect manifestation of the divine. How do I get to that understanding again? Here's how it went for our heroine, Lenedra, in this story. Lenedra naturally wondered about her injury. When she asked her body, she understood that it was a simple matter of being out of balance. She had just been through a long and intense work period. She was tired and hard pressed to find time for rest and recreation. She began to seek knowledge for her recovery. Through the nearly 3 years of the healing process, her focus was not on the difficulties. She did not overlook or deny her injury, pain, and frustration. She experienced and moved through them when she felt them. But her focus was on what could be done to recover. The injuries were serious, but she knew her body could regenerate. Again, it sounds like the strong women who founded divine science and unity. For Lenedra, the incident served as an impetus for her to commit to a more active life, strengthening her body for the extensive travel and activities she participates in. She also restructured her schedule to allow for more R&R, more rest, and personal creativity time. 2.5 years later, due to these efforts, she was actually in far better health than she was before the fall. So remember our two cornerstone beliefs, and they are there is nothing to heal, only our innate perfection to reveal. I think, did you put those in the chat today on the social media? Maybe we could do that. There's nothing to heal, only our innate perfection to reveal. We will add those in there for those of you looking in on social media, on Facebook and YouTube. And the second one is our thinking profoundly affects our physical state of being. I know you've heard it here before, but we need to be reminded of this and immerse ourselves with this rather than keep looking and waving our hands saying there's no use, it doesn't work for me. It does, and it is working. There's nothing to heal, only our innate perfection to reveal, and our thinking profoundly affects our physical state of being. Listen to these words of beauty and power as we wrap up today. They're on page 247 of our book. She says, I have not come to health by wishing for it, by laying myself in the hands of others, or by ignoring the problems that were affecting it. I tried all of these approaches, of course, without success. I count my health today from the moments when ill, dying, or suffering physically that I realized I had the wisdom within me for my healing. I count my health today from the times I looked kindly but unflinchingly at myself and began to change the thoughts and the habits that did not serve me. I count my health from the blueprint that already exists in my soul. End quote. And that blueprint is in each and every one of us. So let's move into that soul space right here and now and just spend a few minutes just seeing our own wholeness, our own perfection, gently closing our outer eyes and just slip into some time of affirmative meditation just for a few moments today as we are getting to the end of our time together. But I do want, if you're willing, anyone that has experienced this to come out and share. I know Reverend Tanae has, and if Reverend Glory wants to come out and share, that would be fine too. But for sure, I would like to hear from some others here because it's moving back into the space, and we're doing that now. I'll add a little music. Just awake and aware to the goodness, the perfect blueprint that's found in our soul, knowing that every moment with our breath, there's that inflow of
You
vitality.
cannot hear your voice. You're too soft.
Hmm. I didn't change anything, but I added music. Can you hear it now? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you for that. So every moment I was saying everything begins with our breath, and with that inflow of every breath, recognition of our vitality. That is the beginning point for that recognition of our inner blueprint, the divine idea of perfection that is in each and every one of our souls. Breathing in, we begin to know this truth, this all sufficiency, very source and inner resource, which is God, God the good. And we just begin this period of prayer and meditation and awareness by taking a deep breath. Let us affirm, centered in God, I am secure and peaceful. Centered in God, I am secure and peaceful. As I shift my focus from the outer activity to God, my source and inner resource, I realize God is peace. All cares and concerns diminish in the presence of peace. God is peace in my quiet mind and my compassionate heart. And in the silence, right here and right now, I realize this peace. Let us silently affirm together. Within the silence of prayer, I gain a clear sense of direction. Within the silence of prayer, I gain a clear sense of direction. Anytime I need greater clarity or wisdom, I turn within. Centered in the silence of prayer, I open my mind to see more clearly the possibilities ahead. I open my heart to feel my way forward, relying upon the spirit of wisdom I know that is mine, and I know what is mine to do. Let us affirm, by the power of divine life, I thrive. By the power of divine life, I thrive. The light of divine life shines within the cells of my body and in every crevice of my awareness. The promised fullness of life is mine. The blueprint is in my very soul. And as I bask in the light of wholeness, vitality, strength, and well being, I know that God is the light of life. And I realize that. I realize this in this moment, right here, right now. And I affirm, I welcome every blessing in a spirit of gratitude and generosity. I welcome every blessing in a spirit of gratitude and generosity. As I reflect on the many ways my life is blessed, I overflow with gratitude, realizing God is the source of every creative idea. I am prosperous. I am purposeful. I am thoughtful and kind. All that I can be and all that I can do flows from the silence. And I affirm our last affirmation for this time together in prayer. My eyes can see the beautiful potential within me and all around me. My eyes can see the beautiful potential within me and all around me. By the power of faith, I have inner vision. I can see beyond appearances to the truth. I can perceive the ripened fruit before the first blossom appears on the tree. As I breathe into the silence of prayer, I am filled with faith and I am faithful. So as we continue to anchor into our breathing, we close out this time of prayer. And in the hours ahead, let us choose to be anchored in peace, wisdom, life, and faith. And let gratitude be our guide. And let us conclude with the prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. So it is. So we let it be. Amen. All right, we're going to leave this on. We're going to leave the feed on for a minute and ask, did you want to jump out and share anything, Reverend Tanae or Reverend Glory, either one of you? It's up to you, no pressure, and you don't have to. But I know that, at least I know Tanae has experienced some of what we talked about today.
And yes, I have. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know. So much of what she said mimics my life. And it just does. And I think it does for everyone on that's listening in right now. Sometimes it's deliberate where you know that this has happened in your life. And sometimes you're having the revelation that this really did happen in my life. And it is true. Thoughts build out your form. And if you're not specific, deliberate in your intention of what it is that you want, you're going to get what you get. So I love this talk today, the archetype of health. It's just been something that's been really big in our family for years and years and years and years and years, centuries, really. And I'm so thankful that I know it and I understand it, and I'm getting better and better and better at it every day. Some might say, oh my gosh, you're a master at this. No, not yet. I'm an expert probably. And however, this is a never ending cycle. So I completely understand everything she said. I really do wish I had the opportunity to talk to her. I'm sure that we would have countless conversations. But if anyone else wants to jump out, I'm sure you all have your own versions of what Jules' mom, Lenedra, talked about.
Well, I tell you what, maybe you will have that conversation with Myrtle, since
Oh,
next month, for your birthday we'll be staying in Myrtle Fillmore's, the cottage her son built for her at Unity Village. So we'll be actually staying in that. It's a beautiful B&B now, and we'll be staying in that for almost 2 weeks. So
and
maybe
I'm
we'll have,
looking forward to that.
yeah.
I am.
So that'll be cool. All
Mhm.
right. Anybody else want to share?
Well, this is Gloria, and I just wanted to say that yes, I too have had some of those experiences, and I love what you share. What a beautiful message. And, the blueprint of our perfection, of that innate perfection, often in unity, we translate that as the Christ self, that divine identity, who we really are. And when things happen, because things do happen in life, and I found for me personally, it's not just a one and done. You have the experience and you go through a healing, you experience it. You're like, oh boy, I've graduated, but it's not actually over because things continue to happen. For example, I've had a relapse, not a terrible one, but a bit of a relapse. And I love the reminders, just keep focusing on that perfection within, that blueprint that's held within the soul, and that the body will catch up. And you just keep working with it. And it's not that any of us have made any mistakes or done anything wrong, but it's just this, like you said earlier, Reverend Stephen, this evolution of the soul, this evolution of integrating that blueprint into the physical self. So, wonderful message. And let's all just go out and live it today. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you for coming out and sharing. Appreciate that. Appreciate both of you and Tanae coming out and sharing. Appreciate everybody looking in. We're going to close out the live stream here to social media and Facebook and YouTube and all that stuff. And thank everyone for being here today. We love you. We bless you. We appreciate you, and we behold the Christ in you. Thanks for looking in, and don't forget about morning inspiration 7 days a week right on our Facebook page. Thank you all. And we're going to close out the social media stream right now. God bless you.